Hello, my dears. So instead of an awkward opening, I thought maybe I should tell you what we're going to talk about. Should be exciting. For today's chat, we're going to talk about what actually are advantages for making progress, and they're probably not things that you would readily think of. So what I'm actually going to talk about first are 4 things that we typically think are advantages, which may or may not be. But then 4 things that I know from my own experience and working with clients as a progress coach absolutely are advantages. And in a fun new twist, I have some next right steps that I'm going to suggest for each of those advantages so you can start to figure out what that might look like for you in your own life. So I am going to pause and have an awkward moment though, just to refresh the Rapid Progress Facebook page so that I can see you guys and see if you have any questions. I love it when you press the things, the little likes or the hearts, or make comments, and I'm very happy to answer your questions as we go. And yeah, so before, wait, one last awkward thing. I wanted to dedicate today's chat to Trish Wallace. She is a dear, wonderful person, and she had been around last week talking about her clever brain and how sometimes it gets in the way. So Trish, I love you, and this is dedicated to you, my dear. All right, let's talk advantages. Specifically, first, advantages, things that we think are advantages. And when we talk about making progress, it could be any type of goal. It could be, a new habit that you're wanting to create. It could be a financial goal, something you want to pay off, or money that you want to save. Maybe it's like a physical thing, fitness, whatever progress looks like for you. Doesn't matter. There are typically things that we associate as advantages. And this whole idea was sparked actually with a conversation that I did last week with a journalist from BBC.com, and we were talking about, is there an advantage to using pen and paper, more specifically the progress maps. Let me give you an example of a progress map. This is what Map Progress started with, and essentially a visual representation of a goal, and each of those little swirls represents an action taken toward that goal. So she was asking, is there an advantage to using a tool like Progress Map and being able to acknowledge the actions that you're taking, the progress that you're making as you go? And yeah, I would say absolutely there's an advantage. And I think oftentimes we think tools as being something that would be an advantage. Like if I just, use this thing, then I'll be able to get where I need to go, right? Or another advantage that we often think of is some type of tactic, like some sort of strategy or thing, like if I just do this thing, then I'll be able to make the kind of progress that I want. Could be, sure. Another one might be some sort of like natural talent, like, well, if I was Michael Phelps, then I, of course, could be the greatest swimmer in the world, whatever. If I just had this thing that I don't have, if I had it, then that would be an advantage to making progress. Or it might be a circumstance, like, sure, it's easy to not have issues with money when you're Oprah. We like use those kinds of logic, and it's like, oh, well, there must be something about that person, that circumstance, or if life were to change in this way, then that would be an advantage for making progress. So those are things that typically come up, I think, in conversations when we think about advantages. Those are things that I don't necessarily worry about. And I wouldn't encourage my clients necessarily to focus too much on, because I think it kind of misses the point. And I think that there are advantages that are more valuable and more enduring and can be much more potent than any of those things. So it's not to say that those wouldn't be valuable in some way. It's just that that's not where I would start. If we're talking advantages, if you're wanting to know how do you make progress from myself, a progress coach who is obsessed with the subject, and I spend every day, most all day, thinking about this stuff, coaching people, talking to people, helping those achieve their goals and get where it is they want to go. There are 4 things that I have seen in my experience that I have known from pursuing progress in my own life that actually are advantages. and they're things that we don't talk about enough, in my opinion. So I wanted to share those with you today, and I'm going to just reference some notes. One thing that could be fun is that if you have something to write with, or you would be willing to listen to this with the intention of, as I'm sharing these 4 advantages with you, if you would be willing to write something, I think that would actually be of great service to you. And I know that if you're like most humans, and certainly like myself, your clever brain may be like, yeah, no, nope, not interested. Like, we don't have time. My journal's like over there. My notebook is downstairs. No, we cannot do that. I don't know where pens are. You know, it's like all that kind of natural resistance to, oh God, she wants us to do a writing exercise, blah, you know, which I totally get. And I would not blame you for. I've been there before. But if you want to get the most out of this and get on your way and have the advantages to making progress, then I would highly recommend that you tell your clever brain to shove it and that you grab something to write with so that you can really find the answers for yourself. I think that's really important. I mean, it's one thing for me to share things with you. It's entirely another for you to apply this into your life and see what it looks like for you. Cool? So I'm going to share these 4 things. I'm going to share some questions, some things that you can write about, think about. I will also include them in the kind of notes for this chat. So don't panic if you're like, yeah, I'm up for, you know, doing the writing, but I'm, you know, I just have my phone, or like, don't worry about it. I will make sure that we put the details and the questions in the notes. Cool? All right, 4 things that are advantages to making progress. You know it's real when I clap, because that's always a sign that we're getting to the meat. All right, so the first thing that is absolutely an advantage to making progress, and frankly, I don't know how you make any kind of meaningful progress without this thing. And the first thing is willingness. For some of you, that may seem obvious, or for some of you, you're like, I'm sorry, what? Willingness? Yes, willingness is the first thing. That is an advantage for making progress. Your willingness to not know how it's going to go, your willingness to not have the answers, your willingness to not know how exactly you're going to make progress, your willingness to not feel comfortable or confident that you know it's like, okay, yes, I feel really good about how this is going to go. Your willingness to not be any better than you are right now, any more, you know, developed, any smarter, any more ready, but your willingness just to show up and begin exactly where you are is a huge advantage. And unfortunately, one that I don't see a lot of people giving themselves. I think for whatever reason, and perhaps it's clever brain, you know, that part of our brain that is that like internal propaganda that is hell-bent on keeping us from making any progress, that will generate all kinds of thoughts, that whatever thoughts are going to shut you down or convince you that this is a terrible idea and you should not be willing to make progress, those are going to get in the way. And so, you know, a lot of times I think we feel like, oh, we have to know what we're doing. We have to know how it's going to go. We have to, you know, be ready to make progress. And it's all bullshit, frankly. It really doesn't have anything to do with what's required or the actions that it would take for you to be making progress. It's just one of the things that gets in the way. So your willingness, even to have willingness, you can be willing to be willing if that's really where you're at. That's totally fine. I've been there too. Your willingness will be enough to have you show up and ready to get started. So, you know, I talked about we're doing a little writing thing. Yeah, that's exciting. Okay, so in terms of what I would encourage you to answer for yourself, again, this is about you taking my recommendations and bringing it into your own world. So questions to answer for yourself is, what is it that you would be willing to do? For yourself, what are you willing to do? You know, examples might be, I'm willing to try something new. I'm willing to see this differently. I'm willing for this experience of pursuing this goal or making progress to teach me what it is that I need to know. I'm willing to take this one day at a time and not get out ahead of myself and not overwhelm myself and not go into worry or dread or like all of the things that we get out into the future of how it's going to go. if you're just willing and are clear on what you're willing to do for yourself, that's a huge first step. Okay? All right, let's talk about number 2, the second advantage. This is one that I think we also forget about, and so many people gloss right over. And, first step would be willingness to show up. And the second step, the second advantage, is to make a commitment to yourself. And I think there's a lot of kind of romanticism, certainly in American culture, but I think a lot of cultures, this idea of getting married, this idea of having a partner, of taking marriage vows, of making a lifelong commitment to someone, of having somebody so committed to you that through sickness and health, rich or poor, you will be there for that person. So what I would love for you to do is consider making a commitment to yourself, that at the outset of whatever goal it is that you're pursuing, the new habit that you're wanting to create, maybe the book that you want to write, the business that you want to create, the sobriety that you would like to have for yourself, whatever those things are when you're at the outset, if you're willing to take a vow to yourself of what it is that you are willing to be for yourself, it's hugely, hugely important. And when you think about the relationship that you have to yourself, like how much do you trust yourself? How much do you trust yourself in doing the things that you say you're going to do for yourself? Those are really important things to pay attention to. And if you're in a position where you don't have a lot of trust for yourself, or you don't believe it when you say, oh yeah, I'm going to do that. Yeah, I'm going to start going to the gym. I'm going to eat better. I'm going to do like this, that, and the other. And you don't have a lot of faith in yourself. That is something to acknowledge. And so part of your commitment, your vow to yourself, is that even though it has not turned out in the past, or even though I've broken commitments to myself in the past, even though I'm scared I might do that in the future, I vow that I will not give up on myself. I vow that I will not be critical to myself. I vow that I will not pay attention to the things that I'm not doing, but I will pay attention to what I am doing. Whatever would be inspiring, motivating, comforting for you, whatever those vows are that you want somebody to make to you, make them to yourself, because you have control over yourself. You don't have control over anybody else, okay? It's a huge, huge, huge advantage to make a commitment and hold that commitment to yourself, that it gets to be messy, it gets to go whatever way it's going to go, and that you will continue to show up for yourself and stay committed and finding your way, whatever that is for you. Oh yeah. Clapping. We're on to advantage number 3. All right. So advantage number 3 for making progress is what I call becoming the person you most need. So these are all kind of building upon each other. Number 1 advantage, we have willingness. Number 2 is to make a commitment to yourself. Number 3 is becoming the person that you most need. And what that means is that you become the person that pays attention to you in a way that nobody else, frankly, can, even if they wanted to. You become a person who takes care of yourself in a way that nobody else possibly could. Despite how wonderful the people are around you, the support you have, whatever, there are things that you know about yourself that nobody else is going to know. And these things are really important when it comes to making progress, because for you to create sustainable progress, for you to be able to grow and build and continue to do things that you can't do right now, it's really, really important that you create a foundation and a way to sustain yourself and be able to care for yourself as you go. So you're the person that's living inside of yourself. You're the person with that knowledge. You're the person that knows at any given time, day or night, yeah, this is what would be really great right now. This is actually what I need. And God love humans. God love all of us, because so few of us really get this and know how to do this for ourselves. And what happens often is that we end up looking outside of ourselves. We end up looking for another person, maybe somebody close to us, like our partner or our friend or a family member. We want them to be able to read our minds. We want them to be able to make us happy. We want them to notice that we've had a really hard day and we'd really like to just have dinner on the couch. You know, we want people to give to us the things that we are not willing to give ourselves. And that is a terrible disadvantage. And it does not go well. It's not sustainable. And so we end up in these weird sort of power struggles and loops where you get thwarted, you get off track, you're not making progress, you're not creating momentum because you don't know how to give yourself what it is that you need. So one thing that I'd like you to do when you're writing, okay, this is next right step that you can absolutely use as kind of a sort of tip to get you going. So when you think about being the person that you most need in any given situation, I want you to imagine whatever's going on in your life right now, wherever you're at. If somebody were to walk up to you, to walk into the room or to come over and, talk to you, like, what is it that you want them to say? If the perfect person in this situation right now, today, whatever's going on in your life, if that person walked up to you and were going to do or say something that would feel like relief to you, that would feel like support, that would feel like, oh my God, thank you. Somebody gets it. Somebody sees me. Somebody understands like what is happening and what's going on and what I need and whatever that is for you, whatever you need to hear right now. That may be that it's going to be okay. It may be that you're doing your best. It may be that they see the effort that you're making. It may be acknowledging what's tough right now. It may be giving you permission to just win ugly and just show up imperfectly as you are. I mean, these are all the kind of things that it's like they're super popular and we see them in songs and in movies and, just the way you are, like that kind of thing. This is about being that for yourself, giving that to yourself. And you can use whatever imagination, imaginary friends, Jedi mind tricks, whatever that is for you, it doesn't matter, as long as it's something that works for you. So that is advantage number 3, become the person that you most need. I would love for you to do some writing about that. And it's just kind of like a fun game that you can play with yourself in any given situation, any day, anything that's going on. Like, what do you need right now? What kind of, if your person, I don't know if you guys watch Grey's Anatomy where they talk about like, oh, this is my person. Yeah, if your person was here, what is it that they would do for you or what would they remind you of? Okay, advantage number 3. Advantage 4 is, I felt like I was just channeling a little Molly Mahoney right there. I love you, Molly. Advantage number 4, and this is a big one. We're kind of building on the advantages we've talked about so far. So 1 is willingness, 2 is commitment to yourself, 3 is becoming the person you most need, and 4 is investing the time and energy into finding out what it is that works for you. I don't care how many books you read. I don't care how many Facebook Live videos you watch, how many podcasts you listen to, how many amazing tools that you discover. It doesn't matter if you are not willing to put the time and energy into finding out if they work for you. You cannot know. You cannot know ahead of time. You can do your best guess. Your clever brain will be trying to do that all day long. Will be trying to get more information, more recommendations. Like, no, you can't know until you actually do it. Okay? So finding a way for you to be excited about that, for you to view it as an experiment, for you to get to be curious, for you to get to try things and like, I don't know how it's going to go, but I'm going to give this some time and energy to find out. And I'm going to report back, even if it's just to yourself or, friends or buddies or whatever that is, that's fine. Whatever would be fun for you and make that be an interesting, compelling thing to do. But there's no way around this. There's no shortcut to putting in some time and energy to actually trying out these things, trying these advantages, writing the answers for yourself that I'm asking you to do right now. It's super tempting to just kind of scroll by or let it go or, just sort of abandon one, tool in search of another shiny object. It happens all the time. That's a very human thing that we do. And yet, if you really want to be making progress and you really want to get where it is that you'd like to go, to reach your goals, to do things that you don't believe that you can do right now, or that you may not know how to do yet, it's really important that you have the willingness to show up, okay? The commitment to yourself to try, the openness to be paying attention and to become that person you most need, and then actually putting that all together and investing time and energy into trying things out, running experiments. This is an adventure, okay? We don't know how it's going to go, and it's exciting because there's a lot of things that can go well. But sometimes our clever brain and our fear of failure and like not knowing just takes us out before we even really get properly started. Okay? So I forgot the next right step for this last advantage of investing the time and energy in using and trying out the tools is to write down, like, look at what works for you well now. That's a really good place to start. And it doesn't have to make sense to you. It doesn't have to be what other people do. It's just whatever actually works for you. Things that you do, ways that you approach goals that have you getting into action, that have you, oh, thank you, Silvana. Appreciate that. She says great advice. Yay. Whatever is actually working in your life, take note of that. Pay attention to that. Be curious as to why is that working? Why is that going well? And how can you leverage that for whatever this goal is that you have and the way that you approach pursuing that goal, okay? Also pay attention to what doesn't work. Not everything is going to work for you. That's just how humans are, right? Not everything works for everybody. It may work for your best friend, it may work for your partner, and wonderful, yay for them, okay? But you're not them. And so it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to, you don't have to have agreement or somebody else to validate and say, yeah, good idea. Just whatever works for you, take note of that. What doesn't work for you, we don't have to keep beating a dead horse, okay? And then when would you be willing to invest time and energy? Would you be willing to pull out your calendar and actually block off some time and space, even if it's just once a week, even if it's 15 minutes? When exactly? And be really specific about this. It's not one of those like abstract things that you like sort of talk about with your girlfriend, like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. No. Pull out the calendar, come up with a specific date and time that you are going to invest in trying out some new tools, looking at some new things, writing the answers to the questions that I'm giving you. Whatever that is, like, what would you be willing to do differently? Because if you continue doing exactly what you're doing right now, the way that you're doing it, you're not going to be making progress, and you're not going to be getting to these goals, and you're not going to be able to achieve things that you're not able to do right now because you've created habits and you've become comfortable with doing things the way that you're doing now. Nothing wrong with that. That's, again, part of how human beings work. But if you really are serious about wanting to make progress, if you want to make progress in a way that is sustainable, that's not just going to like last for a little bit and then, fizzle out. But if this is something that you want for yourself, then it's really important that you put in that time and energy to actually finding out for yourself what works for you. And in that, it just reinforces the commitment that you've made to yourself. It helps you know more how to be that person that you most need. So like all four of these advantages work together. So when you have the willingness, when you have the commitment to yourself, when you're becoming the person that you most need, when you're investing the time and energy, I can't do four fingers there, then once you're using that and practicing that, then fine if you want to, try out other tools. Yeah, try the tactics. Experiment with those things. It's not like it's going to be one or the other. I'm very much a believer in all of the above. But you cannot know until you find out for yourself. Okay? That is my advice for you. Those are what I believe are the most potent advantages. Again, this is what I live every day. This is what I've seen work not only for myself, but many others that I coach. So I would love to hear how it goes for you. Please let me know. I nerd so hard about that stuff, and you might be thinking like, yeah, she doesn't care. No, I do care. Like, I really do love that stuff. It makes my day. So tell me what shows up for you, like when you do these exercises, when you start experimenting, what do you notice? And then for next week, I don't know why that just seemed like a good idea, like we're doing a dance. Next week's chat, going to be back at the same time, Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific. That's when we do these chats. I'm going to be talking about gifts that you can give yourself. It is, of course, the Christmas season. A lot of us, get extremely busy and, are, going after gifts for other people and trying to, do all that. But I would love to share for you some gifts that you can give yourself. And am not talking about necessarily actual purchases, but things that you can give yourself at any time because you are the source of them. So we'll talk about that next Friday. And then the week after, the week of December 26th, Monday through Friday, I'm going to be doing a special series of Facebook chats. And it's kind of like looking at everything that I've created in 2016, everything that I've discovered from working with all kinds of people from all over the world on all different types of goals, and going to be sharing that with you. So for 5 days in a row at 3 o'clock Pacific, I'm going to be here with you, I hope. And that will put us in a really good position to, be off to a great start in 2017. So, Silvana, do I have a podcast? Thank you for the question. I don't. This, I guess, is probably the closest thing. And I was thinking too that I might also turn these into audio so that you could take them with you or be able to listen much as you would a podcast. So thank you for that question, Silvana. For those of you that dig what I just talked about, that feel like this resonates with you, that you have some type of progress that you're wanting to make, particularly if it's been challenging for you, please reach out. And there's something that I've started doing, especially for my customers who purchase progress maps at mapofprogress.com. Again, for those of you that are not familiar with what progress maps are, here's an example. It's essentially black and white artwork, and you can kind of see my custom ones for myself, where each of those white swirls represents an action that you take toward your goal. And then as you take that action, you go ahead and color in the swirl so you can track your progress and see the progress you're making as you go. It's very surprisingly motivational and a little bit addictive. And when I first made my original progress map, I did not know this, but it was such a great tool that I created a whole company around it. And now we have mapofprogress.com. Okay? It wasn't just about the tool though. It was about how I approached it. And that is why I wanted to talk about advantages today and kind of share some of those things with you, because it's not just about the tool. There's more to be done with it. So if this has resonated with you, if you would like to have a conversation about this and you want to go ahead and purchase a progress map for yourself, I will help you with what I call your goal alignment. So it's really understanding what would work best for you. And, we might talk about some of the things that I've talked about just now in terms of these advantages, and really helping you figure out what your next right steps are and what would work for you, because that's what matters most. Okay? Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate you being here. And I am excited to come back next Friday. Again, we're talking about gifts you give to yourself. And I will go ahead and pull out the questions that I have included in this chat here so that you can more easily, write your answers to them for yourself. And again, would love to have you share them with me. All right, dears. Lovely to be with you, and I will see you next week. Okay, bye.